The Dersim massacre was a massacre of Zaza people by the Turkish government in the Dersim region of eastern Turkey, which includes parts of Tunceli Province, Elazig Province, and Bingöl Province. The massacre occurred after a rebellion led by Said Reza against the Turkification policies of the Turkish government. As a result of the Turkish military campaign against the rebellion, thousands of Alevi Zazas died and many others were internally displaced due to the conflict. On November 23, 2011, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan gave an apology for the Dersim operation, describing it as one of the most tragic events of our recent history. Background: Ottoman period. During the Ottoman period, before the Tanzimat, most of the empire's eastern regions were administrated by the Ottoman feudal system. Authority in these regions was in the hands of feudal lords, tribal chieftains and agas. Early Republican era. The situation of Dersim in the Ottoman Empire continued in the early years of the Republic of Turkey. Tribes from Dersim objected to losing authority and refused to pay taxes. Complaints kept coming from the governors. In an Interior Ministry report in 1926, it was considered necessary to use force against the residents of Dersim. Law on resettlement. The Turkification process in Turkey began with the Turkish National Assembly passing the 1934 Law on Resettlement. Its measures included the forced relocation of people within the country, with the aim of promoting cultural homogeneity. In 1935, the Tunceli Law was passed to apply the resettlement law to the newly named region of Tunceli, previously known as Dersim and populated by Kermansi-speaking and Zaza-speaking Alevis. This area had a reputation for being rebellious, having been the scene of 11 separate periods of armed conflict over the previous 40 years. Tunceli Law. The Dersim region included the Tunceli province, whose name was changed from Dersim to Tunceli with the law on administration of the Tunceli province. No. 2884 of December 25, 1935. On January 4, 1936. 4th General Inspectorate. In order to consolidate its authority in the process of Turkification of religious and ethnic minorities, the Turkish Grand National Assembly passed the law, numbered 1164 and dated June 25, 1927. Following the First Inspectorate General, the Thrace pogroms, the Second Inspectorate General and the Third Inspectorate General, the Fourth General Inspectorate was established on June 6, 1936, in the traditional Dersim region, which includes Tunceli Province, Elazig Province and Bingöl Province. On November 1, 1936, during a speech in the parliament, Ataturk acknowledged the situation in Dersim as Turkey's most important internal problem. Firstly, military stations were built in the strategical zones. Then the inspector of the 4th General Inspectorate, Lieutenant General Abdullah Alp Dogan, was given the authority to sign court orders providing security to exile people that lived in the city when necessary. Rebellion. After the Tunceli Law, the Turkish government built military observation posts in the centers of districts such as Karmut, Sin, Karayoglan, Amatkar, Danzig, and Haydarın. Following public meetings in January 1937, a letter of protest against the law was written to be sent to the local governor. According to Kurdish sources, the emissaries of the letter were arrested and executed. In May, a group of local people ambushed a police convoy in response, the first act of a localized conflict. Meeting at Halbori cells, Sayyid Reza, the chieftain of Yukarı Abbasusagi, sent his followers to the Haydarın, Diminan, Yusufan, and Kurazan tribes to make an alliance. According to Turkish authorities, on March 2021, 1937, at 2300 hours, the Diminan and Haydarın tribes broke a bridge connecting Par and Karmut in the Harsik Valley. The Inspector General gave the order to prepare for action to the 2nd Mobile Gendarmerie Battalion at Pulama, the 3th Mobile Gendarmerie Battalion at Pulua, the 9th Gendarmerie Battalion at Mazkurt, and the Mobile Gendarmerie Regiment at Hozat, and sent one infantry company of the 9th Mobile Gendarmerie Battalion to PAR. Turkish military operations. Around 25,000 troops were deployed to quell the rebellion. This task was substantially completed by the summer, and the leaders of the rebellion, including tribal leader Saeed Reza, were hanged. However, remnants of the rebel forces continued to resist, and the number of troops in the region was doubled. The area was also bombed from the air. The rebels continued to resist until the region was pacified in October 1938. According to Osman Pamukkoglu, a general in Turkish army in the 1990s, Ataturk had given the operational order himself. 1937 First Tunsli Operation on September 10–12, 1937. Saeed Reza came to the government building of the Erzincan province for peace talks and was arrested. On the next day, he was transferred to the headquarters of the General Inspectorate at Elazig and hanged with 6 of his fellows on November 15–18, 1937. The deaths were Saeed Reza, Rezek Huzia, Saeed Huzia, Findek Aga, Hasan Aga, Hassan Ali Aga. On November 17, 1937, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk came to take part in the opening ceremony for the Sinop Bridge. 1938 Second Tunsli Operation. The Prime Minister, Celal Bayar, had agreed to an attack on the Dersim rebels. The operation started on January 2, 1938 and finished on August 7, 1938. Third Tunsli Operation. The Third Tunsli Operation was carried out between August 10–17, 1938. Sweep operations. Sweep operations that started on September 6 were continued for 17 days. Aerial operations. Turkish planes flew numerous sorties against the rebels during the rebellion. Among the pilots was Kemal Ataturk's adopted daughter, Sabiha Gökçen, the first Turkish female fighter pilot. A report of the General Staff mentioned the serious damage that had been caused by her 50 kg bomb upon a group of fleeing bandits. Muhsin Batur engaged in operations for about 2 months over Dersim, but he stated in his memoirs that he wanted to avoid explaining this part of his life. Nuri Dersimi claimed that the Turkish Air Force bombed the district with poisonous gas in 1938. Consequences. According to an official report of the 4th General Inspectorate, 13,160 civilians were killed by the Turkish army and 11,818 people were taken into exile, depopulating the province. According to the Dersimi, many tribesmen were shot dead after surrendering, and women and children were locked into hay sheds which were then set on fire. According to McDowell, 40,000 people were killed. According to Kurdish diaspora sources, over 70,000 people were killed. A key component of the Turkification process was the policy of massive population resettlement, a result of the 1934 law on resettlement. This policy targeted the region of Dersim as one of its first test cases, and it had disastrous consequences for the local population. Huzia Aygun, a jurist author, wrote in his book Dersim 1938 and Obligatory Settlement, "The rebellion was clearly caused by provocation. It caused the most violent tortures that were ever seen in a rebellion in the Republican years. Those that didn't take place in the rebellion and the families of the rebels were also tortured. Numbers killed." The contemporary British estimative. The number of deaths was 40,000. Although historians suggest that this figure may be exaggerated, it has been suggested that the total number of deaths may be 7,594, over 10,000, or over 13,000. Around 3,000 people were forcibly deported from Dersim. Genocide controversy. Many Kurds and some ethnic Turks consider Turkish military operations in Dersim to constitute genocide. A proponent of this view is the academic Ismail Beşikçi. Under international laws, it has been argued, the actions of the Turkish authorities were not genocide, because they were not aimed at the extermination of a people, but at resettlement and suppression. Scholars, such as Martin van Bruinessen, have instead talked of an ethnocide directed against the local language and identity. In March 2011, a Turkish court ruled that the actions of the Turkish government in Dersim could not be considered genocide according to the law because they were not directed systematically against an ethnic group. Recent developments. On November 23, 2011, Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan apologized, on behalf of the state, over the killing of over 13,000 people during the rebellion. His remarks were widely commented on both inside and outside Turkey. His comments were pointedly directed at opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Erdogan reminded his audience that Kılıçdaroğlu's party, the CHP, had been in power at the time of the massacre, then the only political party in Turkey. He described the massacre as one of the most tragic events of our near history, saying that, whilst some sought to justify it as a legitimate response to events on the ground, it was in reality an operation which was planned step by step.